Big caps and cost caps. This is a hot topic the last few months, at least in my circles of media buying, affiliate marketing, lead gen, pay per call. But I also I'm in a lot of e-com circles as well, and I hear this coming up more often than not. And I think a large driver of why is because you see a regular increase in ad costs over time, which is completely normal for any ad platform, Facebook, Meta, which we're specifically talking about right now. But if you look back historically at like Google, for example, same exact thing happened, but obviously they were, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years earlier to the ad game than Facebook, right? So, but that's why now you're seeing sometimes $100+ on a cost per click basis for like legal campaigns, right? with with search traffic. Okay. Now with Facebook, we know we know for a fact that what it costs to produce a customer for like a auto insurance, for example, 4 or 5 years ago during COVID is not the same cost that we typically see now. And that really comes down to some changes on the behavioral side of the users and how ads are delivered and served and how people respond or don't respond. But generally, just the cost as a whole, the CPM basis, what they're charging you for that placement, the delivery is at a higher price point than it was before. Okay. Not always, but more often than not. So there's a lot of mystery and misunderstanding around cost caps and big caps. So this is something we've gone very deep with the last year specifically, and it's made a big difference on not all situations, but a lot of situations for us, a lot of different offers and campaigns, right? So typically we're juggling anywhere from 5 to 7 different affiliate offers as a publisher. We only get paid if the lead comes in or the conversion comes in below what the customer actually pays us. So if it's on a per lead, let's say they're paying us $100 a lead or $50 a lead. If we're at 40 on a $50 payout, then we make $10. If we're at 60, then we lose $10, right? And yes, we do lose money a lot of times, at least when we're initially testing and figure things out, which is completely normal. Or if it's on a CPA basis, a customer cost per acquisition basis, right? So a lot of that times that's with our legal campaigns where we get paid a few $1,000s, but it also costs us a few $1,000s to produce, right? And there's more things involved, okay? But just for reference, like we're not just spending someone else's money. This is all coming from a place of us spending our own money or out of our own pocket to produce outcomes and results, whether that's positive or negative, profitable, unprofitable. We take the risk, we reap the reward, right? So I want to show you an example of big caps and how we're using them, give you a couple different strategies that you could test because I talk with a lot of people in the media buying side. Agency owners often don't even think about cost caps, big caps, but let's be honest, like most agency owners, A, they're terrible, and B, they don't eat the downside when it's not hitting a good cost per lead, a good cost per conversion, a good cost per purchase, right? But they reap the benefits of by looking good from the upside and being able to spend more when things are really inexpensive for the brand owner or the company. Okay. So I'm going to show you an example of a couple different strategies for you to play around with. You're going to have to decide which strategy makes the most sense for you. And we'll put up like visuals on the screen showing you these numbers, right? And like step by steps. Okay. So just roll along with me. I'm also going to open one of my own ad accounts and show you this being put into practice live, right? So let's first talk about the strategies and the ideas behind it. So if we have auto bid or lowest cost, which is the default setting. And then you have bid cap, and then you have cost cap. So to put these as simple and like a third grader language as possible, lowest cost or auto bid, you're going to sometimes crush. It's just going to work sometimes. A lot of times it does. And then other times you're going to be eating it. Okay. And it's really outside of your control because more or less you're leaving it up to Facebook of what and where to bid within the auction, which can be better or worse. If the offer is super hot, super unique, uh, and the creatives are really good, like there's a good chance that you'll be able to scale an auto bid, but not always, right? And there's purists. There's purists that believe you only do auto bid, and there's purists that also believe you should only do big cap or cost cap, right? And I know smart people that produce results that believe all three of these things. I think you need to test everything, regardless. That's my opinion. I don't think there's one magic pill, but that's also assuming the offer or the creative, it's good and it's validated already. If you can't just take like a bad product and put big caps or cost caps on and it suddenly works, it's just not going to happen. Okay. So to give you some context, like with Autobid, it could absolutely crush, right? Just depends. With bid cap, in theory, it'll only spend if it predicts it can get you a cost per purchase or cost per conversion or cost per lead, whatever your goal is, below whatever you set. If you say 100 and it predicts it could be under 100, then it should deliver, and almost always is going to be under 100 cost per conversion if it does deliver. And then cost cap or cost per result is going to give you an average. So your action is sometimes it crushes right away and you put 100, it gives you 80 and it gives you scale. More often than not, it'll almost be like a weird functioning auto bid lowest cost where you'll see one really good day, one really bad day, maybe first day it's 120 bucks a lead, then the second day it's 80 bucks a lead, then the third day it's 80 bucks a lead, then the fourth day it's 150 bucks a lead. And in theory, cost per result slash cost cap should average out based on the target that you set. But the trend, a common trend I see for whether it's big caps or cost caps is that if you want 80, you're almost always going to have to bid 100. And then sometimes it'll work and get you the 80 you want, or more often than not, it just won't spend if we're talking big caps, or you'll see just inconsistency if we're talking cost caps, right? So that's a huge part as well that I want to mention. The target needs to be realistic. If I'm seeing an auto bid, and I usually base my targets based off of my profitability, like where I know my break even is, but then also what I see things perform on Autobid. We always test Autobid and then transition what works best on Autobid over or lowest cost over to big cap cost cap, where we then test the bids and the caps, the bidding of the big cap and the bidding of the cost caps as well. Okay, this is just what we do, and I'll walk you through this process. But I think it's really important to mention you need a realistic target. You could set like a unrealistic bid. Like let's say you're profitable if it's $100 or less on a conversion. If you set it at $10, you may squeeze a conversion here or there, but you'll barely get any delivery, if anything at all. Most likely it won't spend at all. If you set it at like 50, you're probably going to see the same thing. If you set it at 80, you may see a trickle. I mean, sometimes you hit a pocket and it just works, right? That's why you need to split test the bids, which I learned from Jose Torres. And this tends to work well. It's not a magic pill. It's not just going to make things work, but it can. So that's really important too, right? So generally, what we do, if we go into my ad account here, so we're in my ad account here. Last 30 days is one offer we ran, right? And I had a lot of flexibility. Realistically, we should be profitable. This thing is 300 bucks or less a lead. So what we started with, we first tested the creatives on Autobid. So the way we did that, very simple. We did one campaign. Inside that campaign, we did a few ads. In this structure, we did one ad per ad set, like you see here, right? One ad per ad set. We pushed full budget to the ad set, and then we saw what worked best, meaning cost per lead, right? So at a ad level, we took our best 3 to 5 ads. Let's say it was these 3. Whoop. And then we duplicated those into a new campaign. New campaign. Ad sets. Okay, so we duplicated it out, should carry over all the same targeting. And then all we did, we moved it to a CBO for scaling. We put the budget at 500, maybe $1,000. And then we did big cap. For big cap, now for big cap, we are going to overbid to start because I have so much margin. I know 300 is more than realistic based off the results we're seeing in AutoBid. And from the early data, the math is working for us. So 300 bucks will get me spend, and in theory, it will cap my cost per conversion around where my break even will be. Now, this is basically what we did, and here was the outcome. So in our testing, we were able to profitably spend $8,853 over the last 30 days. And then in our scaling campaign with the same exact setup that I just showed you, we were able to profitably spend $24,358, right? Now, a lot of times, let's say you want to run a tighter cap. Let's say your break even is actually 200. Well, if I just took those same winning ads and put them into a big cap campaign at to $200 big cap, more often than not, it's barely going to spend, if anything at all, right? And there's different opinions about this. Some people say, well, you keep putting new ads in until it spends, and then Facebook rewards you with profitable cost per conversions. But I've found that that does work, but not always. And I want the volume. I want the spend. And a lot of times that strategy will be very limiting, meaning, sure, there's no downside, there's no risk. It's not going to blast spend, and then in theory, it's not going to blast spend and not get you conversions, right? More often than not, it's going to either spend some or a lot, and it's going to be under 200 where you set the target, or it's going to just barely deliver at all. You'll have $1,000 a day budget, and it'll spend like 20 bucks and maybe get you one conversion or not, right? More often than not, it's the latter for me. So what I tend to do is either I set a single campaign with like a high bid, 20 to 30% higher, right, than the actual target. That will almost guarantee at least, I don't know, half the budget spent, sometimes more, sometimes less, plus conversions. But you will run the risk of paying $250 or $300 a lead in this case, right? So what you could also do is with the same campaign, I would duplicate it, let's say like 10 times, right? Okay, so typically what I would do is I will actually split if it's very tight, like if I want to be like in this example, if I want to be under 200, right, instead of 300, and I don't, and it's really like pushing it, it's right around the $200 mark with auto bid. It may not spend if I bid 200, right, which is annoying. So what I'll do is I will now go to name, and then I will do bid cap. I'll bid under, let's say like 180, and then 190, and then 200, and then 210, and then 220, 230, 240, 50, 60, and then 270. Okay. So now I've labeled it kind of not perfectly, but you get the idea. Now we're going to go to the ad sets. Okay. Here, we're going to set our bid according to how we labeled the campaign. So this will be 180. This will be 190. This will be 200. 210. I literally just apply the bid of the campaign name, right? Okay, so I've got all those. And I'll either just test big cap or I'll test big cap and cost cap. Now with cost cap, it's a little bit different. Let's say let's say this is a fresh campaign. Okay, so we got our cost cap campaign from our winning creatives. I'll go cost per result. And then I would duplicate the cost per result. I'd probably do like 5 in total. So do 4 more. We got our 5 cost per result campaigns. CBO campaign. Cost cap. dollar, and we'll do just under. So I'll explain why in a sec. 180, 190, 200, 210, and 220. That should get us the outcome we want. Okay, I'm gonna update my bids. So this one is 180. This one is 190. This one is 200. This one is 210. This one is 220. Okay, so now I've got my cost caps, right? Now, most likely what's going to happen, the reason why we want to bid these ranges, most likely what's going to happen with the big caps, at least. We've got our big caps here. Let's see if I can select these. Okay, so most likely, like there's different dollar amounts. I think this might be blurred out. I'm not sure what my editing team did yet. But like, if the realistic cost per lead that the ad account is seeing is 200-ish, most likely this one at 180 won't spend, this one at 190 won't spend. That's it underneath. Probably like the 200, the 210 won't even spend. And then most likely you'll start to see spend around like 220 or 230. And then it'll literally like spend a higher percentage of the budget, the higher the bid is, right? So like if you bid like 500, it's probably going to spend the whole thing. Okay. But this is the general idea. But what's interesting is, let's say it spends at 240, like half the budget, and then at 250, it spends half the budget as well. You may actually get a better cost per lead or cost per conversion at 250. Why? I don't know. It's just the way Facebook works, right? And then sometimes you'll actually see it spends less of the budget and it's worse performance at 260. And then at 270, it spends like the whole budget with a bad cost per lead. And then at 280, it spends the whole budget, but like the cost per lead is 150, right? So this has to do with like the auction and the algorithm and things that are outside of your control. But this absolutely will work. And more or less what we do is we just do budget increases. So like you see here, these are 3K. That's just because I duplicated something running. I probably start these at like $1,000 each, maybe 500 each. Depends on your relative cost per lead, and then your risk tolerance too. But realistically, the risk is it's not going to spend. More often than not, the 250, 260, 270, 280, those ones are going to spend at least half, if not the whole budget. Underneath 250 is going to like barely spend, it's going to spend like a fraction or nothing at all, right? And that's the idea behind the big cap side of things. But with the cost cap side of things, what's interesting is more often than not, it won't spend on the underbids, but it could, and it'll almost always spend around and above the realistic like cost per lead. Okay, so this is it. This is like what we do. So we either do one of two things. We either set it as a hard bid. Maybe we'll make adjustments to that individual campaign over time, like a little bit up, a little bit down to increase, decrease efficiency. But generally, like we figure out our average cost per lead with auto bid, lowest cost, and then we will usually actually move it into a CBO auto bid lowest cost campaign just to see. This is assuming it's all like kind of hitting and crushing and getting the target you want. And then we'll duplicate that into the bid caps, either as a single bid cap where we overbid 20, 30%, and then just see how it responds, make adjustments, keep adding creatives, and or into the ranges like I showed you, the 180, 190, 200, 210, like so you go up in like $10 increments or even $5 increments, or hell, you could do $1 increments, right? And then you just see where it spends plus gets good results. So here's another example that I'm going to show you from another ad account of another offer where with this one, our target cost per lead, realistically, we want to be like no more than 400. If we're at 250 to 300, we're like doubling our money. If we're at under $200, we're probably, you know, 1.5 or 2.5xing our money, right? So we spent about 120K in the last 30 days of our own money with this offer. Okay. And we already, this things we've been running for a while. This is also filtered. So like if I showed you all the campaigns, Yeah, we spent like $459,000 on this in the last realistically like 2 months. But if we go back to these are all big cap campaigns, so it's a little bit further, right? So we've already identified winners. We then took the winners exactly as I showed, put it into CBO. We then tested the big cap ranges by just duplicating the CBO, assigning a different bid. So you probably can't see these because these are blurred, but like take this last set as an example here, right? These spent the majority of what we've been spending. And you're seeing the variance in not just spend, right, but also cost per lead. So what's interesting here is that this has a really good cost per lead, 191, but it's spend the least because the bid's lower and there's more efficiency, but it's in some ways inefficient because it's not getting us as much spend as we want, right? Which makes sense based on what we're telling it to do. But to my point earlier, you've got big cap 500, big cap 400, big cap 280, because we tested a lot of different ranges for this, and then big cap 300. So the 280 actually got us more volume in total spend, but at a higher cost per lead than the 300. So this goes back to my point of it doesn't always make sense. Like you would think the lower bid would get us a lower cost per lead, but it's just not the case always, right? So like overbidding does work, and this is proof, but also you need to overbid enough because this is getting us a cheaper cost per lead with a decent amount of spend, but in comparison to the $500 big cap, we're just getting way more volume and it's still within our target cost per lead range. So this still works. Yes, the price per lead is less than double, a little bit less than double, but we're able to get basically spend the full budget every single day and blast it. And if it's profitable there, we will and should continue to do that. Okay. So this is a live example of exactly what I'm talking about working. Now, if we go down here, this is a later creative test we ran where we once again tested all the bid ranges, everything. We're at $200 here, 240, 260, 220, 280, 320, 400, 340, 420, 360, 300, 440, 380, 400, 460, and then 480. So if we just look at these right here, if I filter by these, okay. This one, we started this test a little bit late before the offer paused, but just to go to the point of this whole video, it's not just the bid that you select, it's all of this in combination, right? A good creative, lots of data in that account. You know your realistic target. You know how high you can honestly go based on your economics after the conversion. But this shows you the algorithmic side of things, right? So more or less, we're getting basically these all ran equally, right? So we didn't spend a ton with these because the offer paused, but we're basically seeing no significant spend actually came in until we bid, I mean, 440, 380, right? And it's funny because like this one's at 420 and it spent $92 and no conversions. And this one's at 380 and it spent more money with 3 conversions, right? But the sweet spot is very clear with this one. It's over $400. We're at 460 and 480. And this is where basically all the volume was and a reasonable cost per lead. Remember, under $400, we're good with this. But this just shows you every offer is a little bit different. The target's going to be different. The way it responds to the big caps or the cost caps is going to be a little bit different. But these we run the same process for basically every offer we run. You know, we're spending on some of these like 20, 30, $40,000 a day. Like this offer across 5 ad accounts times 6 or 7,000 or more or less on average. Like we're spending a good amount of money. And even within the offer that we're running across multiple ad accounts, we run the same process and we'll see slightly different outcomes, different bids winning, right? But the process works, right? So if we ran just pure auto bid, this thing is doing good. It's a hot offer, but it's a very niche, like super specific offer. So I could say with confidence that if we just ran auto bid lowest cost, this thing would basically just blow up on our faces eventually. Like we would start consistently, like here's even with big caps, we saw a $1,600 cost per lead. That was just a really effed up, unlucky campaign. But like we would probably see 500 to $1,000 cost per lead over time because it wasn't inherently like crushing just running auto bid, right? Like we were seeing the cost per lead trend up, even with testing hundreds of new creatives every single week. But yeah, so test it out. Like remember, you need something that's somewhat validated, has history, like a baseline, CPL, CPA, whatever you're measuring. I like to let auto bid lowest cost show me what does best in those conditions because in my opinion, if it can crush an auto bid lowest cost, or if it like struggles to be consistent, then big cap is cost cap is definitely necessary. If not, will amplify the potential for scale while reducing your downside by implementing bids. So hope this helps. If you want us to run your ads for you, shoot me a DM. We're looking to take on another 3 to 5 good clients that fit what we're looking for. And we'll see if that's you. But let me know if you have any questions below this video after you apply the strategy. Happy to put up more videos if you guys enjoy this.